This fellowship was on small arms control, looking at stockpile management, tracing, marking, and as well looking at the control and management of ammunition. So it is firearm and ammunition. We had the opportunity to fellowship. The fellowship comprised of persons, law enforcement, and policy persons from the Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Haiti, Jamaica, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, the Dominican Republic, Guyana, Dominica, and as well, of course, Trinidad and Tobago. We had the opportunity of visiting different areas in Trinidad and Tobago where we looked at their the practices that they do in that jurisdiction on small arms management and control. We had the opportunity to get an experience of how stockpiles are destroyed, because the idea is to have within our region the level of control in respect to stockpiles, preventing legally held stockpiles. That means, and when I say legally held, it means those that are held by civilians and, of course, the police and military and government agencies, preventing them from getting into the hands of criminals and therefore avoiding unplanned explosions and violent crimes. The region, as we discussed in that fellowship, across the region, and Belize is no example, where 80%, on an average, 80% of the murders are committed with firearms. So it was a situation that was timely as the region grapples with armed violence. And we also looked at armed violence not only from the perspective of murders, but also from the gender and youth perspective, looking at how arms and armed violence affect women and young persons, and the importance of having them in the discourse when policies and procedures are put in place, that they as primary stakeholders are also in the discussion. We also recognize that armed violence it's not only a law enforcement issue, it impacts on health, it impacts on education, and other ambits of government. As we discussed, we were able to, in group exercises, learn the best practices from our different region. The fellowship culminated with all fellows coming up with individual projects that we wish to see implemented in our respective jurisdiction. With the project that I presented on has to do with the registration of the digital registration of firearms in our country. That is, and the project will look at, if implemented, will look at registration of not only civilian firearms, but eventually all include government-held firearms stockpiles. So that is the project that I presented on, that I hope to implement in Belize.